Welcome back. I'm working on my weaknesses once again, but real quick, thank you for those who have asked. Yes, I am maintaining my rapid rating above 1200 so far. In fact, I've won 3 or 4 games in a row, so I'm in I think the 1220s right now, and hopefully we can keep it there. But I am continuing to work on finding forced checkmates when I have them. And in this game, I missed multiple instances of a forced checkmate sequence. I did go on to win eventually after many moves, but here on move 21, I'm down. My opponent has just checked me, and I have moved out of check, and I'm in a bad way. However, it's one of those rare, or actually fairly common, situations where there's only one good move in a position. And according to the engine, my opponent's only really good move is queen to f5. And king to d6 is okay. And all their other moves either take us to a kind of a drawn equal position or give me an advantage. I think if they had done this, I really would have messed it up somehow. I probably would have played f3, which turns out to be really bad because this bishop just takes f3. If I take back, their queen comes down through here, and I'm in trouble. But they didn't find queen to f5 or king to d6. What they did instead was trying to play knight to f8, trying to kick my queen out. I don't know, can you see the evaluation bar on the side? It just jumped at that point, and now I have a huge advantage. Not quite a mating sequence yet, according to Stockfish, although it's still looking. But what I have is, and I knew this, I had a discovered check coming. The question is going to be, where do I put the knight for that discovered check? And I had considered taking the rook, but I thought, then I'm just going to lose my knight. When they get out of check, they're going to have to get out of check from this bishop back here. So they're probably just going to take the knight. And yes, that gives me a little bit of a material advantage, but not enough. I'm down 4 points of material right now. And that only gains me 2 points of material. And I kind of need all my material for attacking. So I thought if I put my knight on e5, where it's protected by this pawn, that's a discovered check from this bishop. And the king can't go back here because of my queen covering those spots. And of course my bishop covers this one and this one and this one. Well, my knight covers that one back there too. The pawn covers here, so that would only leave 2 spots, 2 available spots for the king to go to. And that's what I played. And my opponent played the best move according to Stockfish, which was king to d6. However, now when I played, now I have a fork. That was their best move according to Stockfish, and I found this fork. Pretty proud of that. And now they only have 2 legal moves, king to d5 or king to c7. Remember, my bishop, they can't come back here because my bishop is cutting off all of those squares. My pawn's cutting off these 2. My knight's hitting that one. So that only leaves 2 squares for them. Now, if they come forward, which is attacking my knight, I still have an advantage, and their king's out in the middle of the board, which is never really great. But when they go backwards, there's a direct mating sequence. And they went backward, and I didn't see the mating sequence. I saw the first move of it, because, I mean, this pawn is clearly undefended and right between my queen and the king, so I did find that one. This says I have a mate in 4. So I took this pawn, and now it says there's mate in 3, and I missed it. Only 2 legal moves, because now my queen cuts off all of these. My bishop's still sitting back there, cuts this off, and I think at this point, even though I had just used this bishop for the discovered check, I think I was starting to forget that that bishop existed. Oh, by the way, my knight cuts off that square. So the king can only make 1 legal move or block with the knight. And they chose to block with the knight, which turned out to not be quite as good. But either way, I had a mating sequence. They block with the knight. Okay, now remember, I had just used this bishop for the discovered check, but now I forgot that it existed. The bishop's not there anymore. Somehow, my mind is only seeing this 5x5 square. I'm seeing my knight guarding these squares. I'm seeing the pawn guarding these squares. I'm seeing my knight attacking the queen. And this knight, it's just irritating because it's blocking my check. I can't take the rook because then the knight's not pinned anymore and it'll take my queen. So I guess maybe a slightly 5x6 square is what I'm seeing. But yeah, I just forgot about this bishop, plain and simple. Because if I had remembered the bishop, I would have taken the knight. And that would have forced the king there. And that would have been checkmate. But again, once they blocked with the knight, I thought, well, I guess I'll have to take this queen then. Yeah, that bishop was just became invisible to me, and I apologize to the bishop. The bishops, both of you are very important to me, but I just don't see you sometimes, and I'm working on that. Okay, so what I did was I took the queen, which, I mean, that's a great move to take a queen with a knight, and they can't even take back. But it wasn't a mating sequence, so now we don't have a mating sequence anymore. My opponent did not play one of their better moves here. I mean, this is an obvious idea to line up the rooks on my king. But now I have another mating sequence. Now it says mate in 6. Okay, well here, guess what I did? I remembered the bishop. I didn't remember the bishop on the previous turn, but here I remembered the bishop. I did my check, and now I have mate in 5. The king goes through there. And now I have to take this to continue the mating sequence. But my poor knight. I guess I was worried about the knight. I thought, well, I could take that. My queen would be protected by the knight, but then the king would take the knight, and then I wouldn't have it anymore. But what I should have noticed is that once that happened, because the king can't go this way, because my pawn's cutting off that square. And again, my queen's protected by the knight, and my queen then would be cutting off all these squares and all of these. So once the king took my knight, after I checked here, king takes my knight, my queen is cutting it off and trapping it on the A file. That's what I should have seen. Like that. Now I have a mate in 4 that's going to start with this B4 check, and then the king's going to go to A4 because it has to. And then I'm going to sneak in here to check, and then what's going to happen? I mean, because watch, where can the king go? It has to go here, doesn't it? Then I check here. Now the king can take this pawn, but now I have that. Look at that. Where can the king go? I mean, these A and B files are completely cut off. On the C file, the queen's cutting this off, the pawn's cutting that off. There's only one legal move, so it has to go there. And that's mate, because again, the rook cuts off all these, and from here, protected by the pawn, my queen cuts off all these, and that. But I didn't see that when the king went after my knight. I just saw that if I checked, I would lose my knight. So I checked with my knight, which still gives me a mating sequence if the king goes the wrong way. And the king did go the wrong way. So now I have a mate in 6 again. And this time I decided to let the knight go, and I checked on B7. So the king took my knight, and now I have a mate in 5. And I did the right move here because my queen, again, cuts off all these. Now my rook is cutting off all of these. The pawn's going to fall, which is what the king did. The king took my pawn. Mate in 4. Did I find this? No. This is what I have to find. Queen captures A7, which would check down through here. I did not find that, because that checks through here with the rook still cutting off these, the pawn cutting off this, and this traps the king in the center of the board. But I did not see that. What I did see was queen to D7. I did see this check, because I'm still seeing, yeah, it's cut off, and now these are cut off, and the pawns are cutting off there through here. So the king's only got 2 choices. Well, the king came toward me, and here I have mate in 3, which I didn't find, which would be, I had to start this way, and I guess I thought if I did that, then the rook would come, but again, the bishop. I've got to start remembering these bishops. That's what I missed. I didn't try that one, but I did play the next best thing, which was rook to C5 check, which now I still have a mate in 3 sequence. I'm just one move slower than if I had played queen to E7. I didn't do that. Here, there are 3 legal moves, and my opponent played the best one, which is to block with the bishop. Isn't that nice? These two protect each other now. But now I have to find queen e7 again, and I'm still not going to find that just because it looks like the rook can come. And again, I'm forgetting about that bishop. Now my second best move here, that's my best move, to do the mate in 3 sequence. Stockfish says my second best move is just to take that bishop, which I assume would result in the pawn taking, but I would still have a mating sequence if I did that. And my third best move is to take this pawn with my queen. Isn't that what it said? No, okay, wow, I misread the third best one. Okay, right here. I should have been able to find that check. But again, I guess I was worried about the rook coming over, maybe? I don't know. But I didn't find any of those. And I was looking at this battery, not sure how to proceed. And so I played the f3 to offer a layer of protection to that battery, and I lost my mating sequence. But this poor bishop. So I think the lesson from this game is that a couple of times, at least 2 of these mating sequences that I messed up, twice it was because I was not seeing that this bishop is here guarding all of those squares. Even though I saw it for the beginning of this, right early in this, at this position when my opponent, wow, sorry about that, when my opponent blundered with that knight move, I did see the bishop here, and I used it when I played knight to e5. So I knew the bishop was there at that point. But then, when we got to here, and I did the right move, I forgot about the bishop. And then as you saw at the end, when I needed to play queen to e5, I completely forgot about the bishop again. If we can go forward to here and to there, yeah. If the rook blocks, that's what the bishop is for. And it says that the rook would block if I played queen to e7. Black's absolute best move would be blocking with the rook, but it wouldn't matter because of that. Now there's only one legal square for the king to go to. And that would have been mate. Pawns block off all of these squares. Queen blocking off all of these squares. And the rook blocking off all of these squares. Okay. I'm still getting better. I'm getting better because I'm going over these move by move every time. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you're also getting better. We'll see you next time.